Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping straight into the Q&A session from Meta's Q3 2025 earnings call.
Yeah, skipping the prepared remarks.
Exactly, because the Q&A, that's really where you get this strategic gut check,
Yeah.
how they plan to spend these, well, astronomical sums on AI.
Right. And our mission for you today is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Quickly unpack that massive investment plan for future compute. We're talking super intelligence level compute.
And crucially, what are they actually getting now? What are the measurable profit-driving results today that justify pouring all this capital into the future?
And the key theme that just jumped out from this Q&A was this deep commitment, really deep, to what the CEO called aggressively front-loading building capacity.
Aggressively front-loading.
Yeah, they frame this huge infrastructure spend not as some kind of risky bet, but like a profitable necessity, something they have to do to win this generational shift.
Okay, let's dig into the scale of this commitment. The numbers are just wow.
They are.
And the CEO was pretty frank about the superintelligence timeline, wasn't he? Mentioned anything from a few years maybe to 5, 7 years or longer.
Right, and the strategy seems to be plan for the best case, spend now as if those shortest timelines, the most optimistic cases, are going to happen.
Which leads directly to the CapEx figures.
Right.
Capital expenditures, the money for data centers, servers, all that hardware.
And they're huge. For 2025, they're expecting it to land between $70 billion and $72 billion.
$70 billion. That's just, it's hard to even picture. It's like the GDP of a small country.
It really is.
But isn't that incredibly risky? If superintelligence takes, say, 7 years, haven't they potentially spent hundreds of billions on stuff that might be outdated by then? What about stranded assets?
Yeah, and that was the question analysts kept pushing on, wasn't it? And the CEO's answer was really the anchor for the whole call strategy-wise. He argued that any extra compute, any capacity they build that isn't immediately needed for the big AI push, it gets profitably put to work right back in the core business. He actually said the company is, quote, perennially operating in a compute-starved state.
Hang on. A company making billions, throwing off massive cash flow, is starved for compute. That sounds a bit off.
I know. It sounds like typical corporate speak, maybe. But it actually gets to the core of how AI drives products now. They basically believe they have endless profitable ways to use more compute power in their existing apps. Facebook, Instagram, ads.
Okay.
Every little improvement in ranking, recommendations, ad targeting it all needs more intelligence, which needs more GPUs. So any extra spending on infrastructure isn't wasted. It immediately means more intelligence and better recommendations. And that generates profit right away.
Oh, okay. So it de-risks the long-term bet because there's an immediate payoff. The massive 2026 forecast isn't just a moonshot then.
Exactly. It's about maxing out current profit by fixing an immediate bottleneck while also building for the future.
So what does that 2026 forecast look like? They gave some hints, right?
They did. The CFO said the dollar growth in CapEx for 2026 will be notably larger than 2025's 70-something billion.
Notably larger than 70 billion growth. Wow.
Yeah. And total operating expenses in 2026 growing at a significantly faster percentage rate than in 2025, primarily driven by infrastructure, costs, cloud, depreciation on all those new servers.
And hiring, presumably.
And hiring, yeah, second driver. Especially that expensive AI talent, plus recognizing the full year cost for everyone they hired in 2025.
And to manage all this, they're not just building frantically, they mentioned partnerships.
Right, they're trying to stay flexible. They talked about capital allocation, mentioned joint ventures like that Blue Owl deal for data centers. That lets them basically stage the sites, get the land, the prep work done, gives them, as they put it, option value for future compute needs out in 2027, 2028.
So if the AI breakthroughs happen sooner?
They can spring up capacity quickly. It's a way to manage the risk, build a foundation so they can scale like crazy if they need to, but without committing every single dollar years in advance.
Okay, that sets the stage for the huge future bet, massive spending options for more. But let's pivot. Is any of this AI investment actually, hitting the bottom line today? What are the tangible returns right now?
The answer they gave was a really strong yes. They pointed to very specific, quantifiable returns, especially in the ads system.
Okay.
The annual revenue run rate, the money flowing through their fully end-to-end AI ad tools, the Advantage Plus suite, has hit $60 billion. $60 billion running through those AI tools. That's probably the clearest sign their current AI optimization work is really paying off.
$60 billion. And
Okay.
they mentioned a couple of model names, Lattice and Andromeda. For listeners who follow this stuff, what did those actually do?
Good question. Let's start with Lattice. Think of Lattice as consolidation, big time consolidation.
Okay.
Instead of having like hundreds of separate little AI models doing specific jobs, ranking for clicks, ranking for conversions, ranking for video views, they're pushing it all through one much bigger, much more efficient model.
Makes sense.
And they gave a concrete example. Rolled Lattice out to app install ads in Q3, and boom, nearly a 3% gain in conversions just from that change.
Wow.
And strategically, it's about efficiency, too. They said since 2023, they've already retired about 100 old ranking models, and they plan to consolidate another 200. Fewer models, simpler system.
So streamlining the very infrastructure they're spending $70 billion on.
Right.
Got it. What about Andromeda?
Andromeda is more about the input side, improving the data, the signals that feed into the ranking systems like Lattice. It combines different models that handle retrieval and the early stages of ranking.
And the result.
Pretty impressive. They said it drove a 14% increase in ads quality on Facebook specifically. So you see the two parts. Lattice simplifies the architecture, makes it efficient. Andromeda improves the input signal, makes it perform better.
Right. And these AI improvements aren't just making ads better, they're also driving engagement across the board, right? Recommendations are key there.
Oh, absolutely. The recommendation engine is the engagement engine now. They highlighted video time spent on Instagram up more than 30% since last year.
30%. Yeah.
Yeah. And that directly fuels Reels monetization, which they said now has an annual run rate over $50 billion.
$50 billion from Reels.
Mm-hmm. And even Threads, the newer app, saw a 10% jump in time spent just in Q3, purely from ranking improvements.
And they're starting to monetize these other surfaces too.
Following the usual playbook, ads are now global in the Threads feed, and they're gradually rolling out ads in WhatsApp status. Expect that to finish next year. Standard procedure for them.
And looking further out, that idea of simplification plus better AI leads to a pretty radical vision for advertisers, doesn't it?
Totally. The end goal seems to be almost complete automation. The vision is an advertiser gives the AI system a business goal like increase my sales 10% and their credit card details.
So, and that's it.
And the AI does everything else, buys the ads, targets them, even generates the creative. They mentioned adding AI-generated music in Q3 so the AI can pick the soundtrack to match the personalized ad creative for each specific user.
Taking the human advertiser almost entirely out of the day-to-day loop.
That seems to be the long-term direction, yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've talked infrastructure, ads. What about the consumer side? The AI products people actually use and Reality Labs?
Well, the adoption numbers for their consumer AI stuff are pretty big. Meta AI, their main conversational assistant, over 1 billion monthly active users now. 1 billion.
Wow. Yeah.
And people are using the creation tools. They said over 20 billion images have been created using their products. They specifically mentioned a new tool called Vibes, launched in September. And media generation in the app apparently increased more than tenfold after it launched. So people are definitely playing with these generative AI features.
And any signs of practical business use cases taking off?
They mentioned tests for business AI, specifically in Mexico and the Philippines, said they've seen millions of conversations since July, suggests there's real demand there for automated customer service, conversational commerce, that kind of thing.
Interesting. Now, Reality Labs. For years, that was the division known for, well, burning cash, big spending, big losses. But Q3 looked different.
It really did. Q3 revenue for Reality Labs was $470 million. That's up 74% year over year. Pretty significant jump.
What drove that?
Two main things, they said. Strong sales of their AI glasses, the Ray-Ban Meta ones, and also retail partners stocking up early on Quest headsets for the holidays.
Ah, the glasses. That seems like a genuine hit this time around.
It really looks like it.
Yeah.
This new generation, the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses, crucially, they're first with proper high-res display actually inside the glasses.
Right, not just the camera.
Exactly. That's key for future AR and AI stuff. Demand was apparently off the charts. They said they sold out in almost every store within 48 hours.
48 hours.
Yeah. Forced them to immediately invest more in ramping up manufacturing. It really suggests they've found a product format, fashionable glasses with built-in AI, that consumers actually want. A big step for wearables.
But despite that strong Q3 number, they did warn about Q4 for Reality Labs, right? A headwind.
Yes, definitely a necessary bit of expectation setting from the CFO. It's mainly about the comparison. Q4 this year will be compared against Q4 last year, which had the big launch of the Quest 3S headset.
Okay, tough comp.
Tough comp, exactly. And critically, because retailers bought so many headsets in Q3 this year to stock up for the holidays, a lot of those sales got booked early. So Q4 revenue will likely look weaker year over year, even if underlying demand for glasses and headsets is still strong.
Okay, let's pull this all together. The core philosophy seemed to be summed up by the CEO when he talked about maximizing profitability, not margin. What does that shift actually imply? Maximizing profitability over margin.
It's really the strategic justification for that $70 billion capex number, isn't it?
Those.
Well, maximizing margin often means you hold back on spending, you try to keep your profit percentage high on every sale. But maximizing profitability, the total dollars of profit, means you invest every cent you can if you think it will give you a bigger competitive advantage down the road.
So spend big now to win bigger later.
Exactly. Because if they do get to superintelligence first, or just have clearly the best AI capabilities in the world, they believe they can capture the lion's share of the value created. It justifies spending immense amounts now.
It's a real winner takes most or winner takes all bet.
Precisely. The CEO literally said, the art of product development now is figuring out which new products to build around this exponential curve in new technology capabilities. They believe the company that is just flat out the best at a key capability could be video generation, could be reasoning, whatever that company will grab a huge chunk of the market value. So they're racing to build that compute capacity because they think the ultimate competitive advantage, the moat, will be built on the scale and quality of that AI infrastructure.
So that wraps up our deep dive then. Massive infrastructure spending is clearly fueling both these huge long-term AI bets, but also, importantly, generating real, significant profit increases in the core business right now. The strategy seems to be working on both fronts simultaneously.
Yeah, it seems so. And maybe here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. The CEO believes his core business, despite its scale, is perpetually compute-starved. We see them successfully scaling AI internally for ads and externally in new products like Meta AI and the glasses.
Okay.
So if they continue this successfully, creating the sudden abundance of applied intelligence and compute capacity, what existing, maybe historically stable non-tech industry out there might suddenly find itself completely blindsided, totally disrupted by Meta having all this spare intelligence and capacity to point wherever it wants?
Interesting question. Something to think about until our next deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.